Hey everyone, welcome to Martin's Media. In this video, we are going to learn how to use Supabase to integrate Google signing in an iOS application using SwiftUI. So for this course, the prerequisite for this course, we need a Google Cloud account. You also need a Supabase account, you need Xcode, and you need a basic knowledge of SwiftUI. So without further ado, let us get started. We have to jump into the developers the Google guides. Then it provides the step-by-step process for integrating Google sign dependencies in our projects. So the first thing to do is to create our Xcode projects. So let's jump into our Xcode projects. Let's create a new project. Click on iOS app. Let's call the project. I can just call it maybe sample Google signing, or maybe Supabase Google signing. That sounds like a better name. Supabase Google signing. So we leave every other fields the same. We click on next and choose where to save it. I can save it in this folder. That is fine for me. Then our project is created. All right. So the next step is to add the Google signing dependencies to our application. So we're going to copy the repository link, the repository URL, then go to File, Add Package Dependencies, then paste it and search for it. We have the Google signing project now loaded. So we have to make sure that when we add it to our Supabase Google signing project, click add package. It fetches the package. So now it has fetched all the packages. We need both packages. We also have to add them to targets. Then we click on add package. So let's wait for it to resolve. Once it's resolved, we can build to ensure that our Google signing package was installed successfully. Yeah, it's building. I believe it should run. While it's building, the next step to do now is to go back to our documentation, and you'll see that the next step is to create an OAuth client ID. This OAuth client ID is like an ID that shows. It's like an ID that specifies our application in the Google Cloud. So to create that, we will have to first of all create a Google Console account. We have to first of all create a Google Console account and a project in it. So let's jump into the Google Cloud Console and create a project. So now we are in our Google Cloud Console, our console.google Cloud. Then we have to create a new project here. If you already have a project, you can use it, but I will create a new project here. So once you click on select project, you click on new projects. Then we are going to give it a name. Let's call it signing with Google. Signing with Google. We leave every other details here same. You can choose a billing account. I'll leave mine as my billing account 1. We click on create. So our project will be created. Once our project is created, then we can create our OAuth client ID. So let's go back to our Google developer documentation. So now we are in a Google developer documentation. We click on the create an OAuth client ID. We can continue in creating that now that we have a project. So we click on the select project. We select for some reasons we can't see our project yet. So let's refresh this page. Probably it has to be refreshed. Okay. Once it's refreshed, let's try it once again to see. So we select projects. I believe now we should see it. Yes, we have our signing with Google project now. Then you select it, click on next, and give it a good product name. I'll give the same name that I named it in the Google Cloud Cloud Console. So I call it sign in with Google. Okay. Then click on next. It says this request has been classified as abusive and was allowed. Let us give it a different name if it is not allowed. So let's do the same thing to click on sign in with Google. Next. Let's give it maybe Google sign in with Supabase. I believe this should be allowed because yeah, it's not the same. Okay, yeah. So let us choose where we are calling it from. It's from an iOS application. Then we click on create. So the bundle ID, we can get the bundle ID from our Xcode projects. Let's jump to our Xcode projects. And this is our Xcode project. We have to get our bundle ID by clicking on projects here, then signing and capabilities. We copy our bundle identifier and go back to our Google Cloud Console. We paste in our bundle identifier and click on create. Then the OAuth ID will be created now. You can choose to download this client configuration if you choose, but I won't download it for this case. What I will do is to jump to the API console here. So this API console is where we can be able to fetch our OAuth client ID. So to fetch that, we have to go to credentials here. Then you will see that the OAuth client and the web client has been created for us automatically. You can see the client ID here by the site, or to see more information about it, you can jump into it and you see the client. You will see the client ID. You also see the iOS URL scheme. It's a reverse of this client ID. So same as the web client ID. The web client. If you go to web client, you will see client ID, creation date, and client secrets. When we are creating Supabase, we are going to need the client secrets. We don't need the client ID for the web for the Supabase setup. So now we have our Google Cloud project set up, and we have the Xcode project set up. The next thing to do now is to start setting up our Supabase project. So we have to jump into our Supabase dashboard, and let's create a new project. Let's call the project. Let's call it signing with Google, since we are already using it on consequently. Okay, since we're already using signing with Google, don't just confuse me. Signing with Google. Look at Supabase for it to sound nice. Then I generate a password. You can give it a password of your choice. I generate mine for it to be faster. And it's also secured. So I click on create new projects, and the project is being created. So in this project, we are going to need the Supabase URL key, and we're going to also need the Supabase API key. To get that, we have to go to project settings, data API. Then you see the project URL here and the project API key here. So we're going to need it when we are creating our Supabase client in our Xcode project. So let's jump back to Xcode. Now that we're in Xcode project, we have to start integrating Supabase into our Xcode project. The first thing to do is to get our Supabase package here. So to get that, I have the Supabase package open somewhere around here. I can just copy the link. Then I'll add it to the project description so you can be able to get it easily. Then you go to File, same, Add Package Dependencies, search for it, and once it gets it, and then you have to be sure and know that it is added to our project Supabase Google Signing. So click on Add Package. So the package is being fetched. So now that we have the package fetched here, we only need the Supabase package, like the Supabase library. We don't need the rest. So we have to add only the Supabase library to our target app, which is the Supabase Google signing. Then we're going to add package. So yeah, we have our Supabase package now, and we have our Google signing package. The next step is to create our Supabase client. So to create that, let us create a new Swift file. Let's call the Swift file Supabase. Let's call it Supabase clients. So then we have to first of all import Supabase here. Then to create our Supabase clients, we create a variable called Supabase clients. Then we initialize it with the client. We initialize it with the Supabase URL and Supabase key. To get the Supabase URL and Supabase key, we have to go back to our Supabase dashboard. So we have to go back to our Supabase dashboard and copy the Supabase URL. Then create a variable called, let's call it Supabase URL for it to be consistent with our parameter here. And it's a type of string. Okay, it's not a type of string, it is a type of URL. So as you can see here, it's a type of URL here. So we're going to just create a URL here, and the URL of type string, we're going to paste it. Okay, then let's delete one of these. So now we have our URL. We also need to have the Supabase key. We can jump back to our Supabase dashboard again and copy the Supabase API key. So we're going to create a variable called Supabase key, and it's a type of string. We're going to paste it here. So normally it's not encouraged to use this like hard-coded in your project. I'm very sure for production cases, we can save it in a keychain or in a much more secure storage. But for this video, we'll just leave it like this. Then we're going to pass in the argument, the Supabase URL argument and the Supabase key argument. Now we have a Supabase client set up. Okay, let's see what's happening. It's saying cannot convert. Okay, I made a mistake. So Supabase URL, yeah. Okay, so now that we have our Supabase client set up, it's time for us to set up our Google signing in this iOS project. To do that, the first thing to do is to create a key. Create a key value pair called GID client ID and pass in our OAuth client ID that we generated from the Google Cloud Console. Then add it into our info.plist. To do that, you go to info.plist here and create a new field. Let's call it. Let's create a new one here. Okay. Let's call it GID client ID. That is the client's key. GID client ID. And we're going to need the value for it. To get that, we have to go back to our Google Cloud Console and click on the OAuth client ID. We're going to copy this client ID and paste it here. All right, click on enter. Then once we have done that, then we can go back to our Supabase dashboard and try to integrate the client ID and the client secret in our Supabase dashboard. All right, so let's jump back to our Supabase dashboard. On our Supabase dashboard, to integrate Google signing, like to enable Google signing, you have to go to projects overview first of all, then click on authentication and click on signing and providers. Scroll down in the auth providers section until you see Google signing. I think I can see it around there. Yes. Then we have to check enable the signing with Google option here. Then we are going to need the client ID, the OAuth client ID that we got from the Google Cloud Console dashboard. So let us copy it once more. I already have it copied before. Let me just paste it. Yeah. So then we need the client secrets. So to get the client secrets, we have to click on the web client here and copy the client secrets. Once we get that copied, we have to go back to our Supabase dashboard and paste it here. So we go back to Supabase. We go back to Supabase dashboard and we paste in the client secrets here. So we also have to enable this keep nonce check. It's a requirement. So once we have done that, we click on save. So now we are done with the Supabase dashboard setup. Now let's jump back to Xcode to set up a URL type where we are going to need the reverse client ID as a URL type. So let's go back to it now. So to do that, we have to click on the Supabase Google Signing project and create a new URL type. So this URL type, we need the iOS URL scheme, which is the reverse of the OAuth client ID. To get that, we have to jump back to our Google Cloud Console project and copy it. Okay. Now we are back in our Google Cloud Console project. We can click on the back key here and click on the OAuth client ID. So this is what we need. We need the iOS URL scheme. We are going to copy the iOS URL scheme here, copy it here, and jump back to our Xcode projects and paste it. So once that is pasted, we are also done with the Google Cloud Console project. Now I'm going to focus on integrating it into our app right now. The next thing to do is to create our login screen. For this tutorial, we just need a very simple login screen. So we'll create only a button with let us say, get started with Google signing or whatever. So let us create a login screen first. So let's create a login screen. Let's call it a login view. So we have to use a SwiftUI view here. Let's call it login view, and it's created. Now we have our login view file has been created. We have to create our login view, and in this login view, we just need a button, maybe call the button sign in with Google button. So the first thing to do is create a navigation stack, which we are going to use to navigate once we log in successfully to the home screen. So we create a navigation stack and create a vstack, within it a vstack, and the vstack will have the button in it. The button, let's call the button sign in with Google. We leave the action empty for now. Then we style our button to have a padding, a horizontal padding of 16. So let's give it 16. Then we give the button style of bordered. So let's write button style of bordered. So we are going to see the button will be rendered by our preview here. So once we have that, the next step is to create the action for the signing with Google. So let's create a function outside this view. outside this body, and let's call the function sign in with Google. And the function is going to be an asynchronous function. All right. Okay. Now the first thing to do is that we have to first of all create a view controller that will present the UI for the Google sign-in. Since in the Google sign-in package, we are still using view controllers, we don't have a SwiftUI inbuilt view yet. So to do that, we have to first of all create a variable called, can choose any name, but for this one we call it presenting VC. And we're going to try to get the UI application and get the shared UI application dot shared dot all the connected scenes. Then we are trying to get the UI window scene. We are trying to filter for only the UI window scene. To filter for it, you can use the compact map, and we are going to get all the connected scenes and cast it only to UI window scenes. Then we are going to try to get the first window, and the first root view controller. And if we don't get the root controller, we are going to print an error. Let's call it error getting VC. And we're going to give it a description. Okay. We're going to give it an error.localized description. Okay, we don't need to do that because it's not a. Let's call it error getting VC for now. Okay, let's see what is the error here. It's saying that, okay, I forgot, we have to make the gadlet first. All right, and once we have the gadget, we have to return from the gadgets. So we write return. So now that we have our presenting VC setup, the next step is to use our Google sign-in package to trigger the presenting VC. So, and it is error prone. So we have to, since error prone, we have to put it in a do catch block. Do catch. Let me raise the screen a bit so I have a little space. Okay, so we put it in a do catch block. We print an error, and this is where we print an error, and let's call it maybe error signing in, and this is where we are going to now need the error.localized description. Okay, so now we have to. So now that we have the do catch block set up, we have to trigger the UI and pass in that presenting VC here into the into the UI. So to do that, we have to first of all create a variable called results, and we try our weights, and we use the GID sign in dot shared instance dot sign in with presenting view controller. So we're going to use this presenting view controller that we created. So in this result gives us some group of information about the user that is about to sign in. But what we are interested in is the user token, the ID token, and the access token. So to get the ID token, we have to use a gadget because it is optional. So gadget ID token equals to results dot user dot ID token, and we need the token string. We just need the string. We need the string. Then since it's a gadget, we have to use an else, and return. We can print out an error just in case we have an error here. Let's print error getting ID token. Then the next step is to get the access token. Let's get access token. Let access token equals to results dot user dot access token, and we need the token string. Once we have gotten that, it's time to use Supabase backend to sign in into Supabase now. So to do that, we have to now use the try await. It is an error prone process. Try await is also an asynchronous process. Try await. So we're going to use our Supabase client that we created initially. Supabase client dot auth dot sign in with ID token and credentials. So for these credentials, we can use the open ID connect credentials, open ID connect credentials, and we need the provider ID token and access token. So for the provider is obviously going to be Google, not Apple or Azure or Facebook. So we're going to use Google here and pass in the ID token here. And we are going to need the access token too. We're going to pass in the access token also. Now, once we are done with this, our app should be able to sign in and authenticate using Google Sign-in. Next step is to create a home view. In our home view, we need to show the sign-in user and a sign-out button, just for us to believe that a user was signed, that user that we signed in with is what is actually signed in. So let's create our home view. Let's create our home view here, and our home view is a SwiftUI view. So let's call it home view. All right. So remember what I said, that in this home view we need two things. We need the user email, the signed in email, and we also need a logout action, like a logout button. So first of all, let's create the state that will get our user email once we have successfully authenticated it into our app. So to get that, we use the @states, then it can be a private var of user email, and it's of type string, optional string. We can pass it nil for now. Okay, then we need a navigation stack and a vstack. So we have to use an iflet. So if the user is signed in, we present the user user email. If the user is not signed in, or we are not able to fetch the user's email, we just present maybe like a no user signed in kind of information. So we use if let's email equals to user email, and we can pass in a welcome. So we can say welcome user email or welcome email. Yeah. So once that is done, then we can style this text. Let's use a good font. Let's make it title. Then we can use a padding. So now if we're not able to fetch the signed in email, let us display a text called no user sign in, and we're going to style it also. I forgot to, we don't need any padding, like any number. We use the default padding. So we're going to style this maybe like a foreground color, a foreground style. Let's call it secondary. All right. So yeah, then what we want to do is that once this screen is loaded for the first time on Appear, we want to fetch the user's email. So to do that, we are gonna go to do that, we are going to create a view modifier called on Appear, and the on Appear we perform a function. So what it does, what we want to do is to pass in the user email and call Supabase. Try to get the current user's email from Supabase. So we have to first of all import Supabase here. Then use our Supabase clients. That's Supabase. How am I always making? Okay, Supabase clients dot authentication dot auth dot current user dot email. So now this is the email. Then the next thing to do now is to create our logout button. We can add the logout button as a toolbar. It can be at the it can be here, maybe like the leading of our screen. So let's create a toolbar button here. So toolbar, and it should have a content. So the toolbar, you have a toolbar item, and the toolbar item we have a placement of dots. We need it to be at the top leading, so top bar leading, and the content will be the button. So let us create the button here. Button, let's call the button sign out, and we can give it a role of destructive, then give it an action. So the action will be our logout action. So the logout action, we prefer to write the logout action as a function outside here. So let us write it outside this body. So we write func logout, and we are going to write it in a task. So it's also something that is also error prone, and it's an asynchronous process at the same time too. So we're going to use the do catch block. As usual, we are going to print an error string just in case we have an error. So we can call it error signing out, and pass the we're going to pass the localized description of the error. Now we're going to write the function to sign out the user. So we use the try await, and we're going to use our Supabase clients dot auth dot sign out. We are going to call the logout action in our logout button action here. So that is pretty much it for the home view. But the last step now is to get our app entry. We need to know where the app is being loaded from. So what we want to do now is that when the user comes into the application, we want to check if the user is authenticated. If it's authenticated, it goes to the home view, that is this view here. If it's not authenticated yet, we are going to go to the login view. So let's create our app entry view. So let's create that, command N, and it's a SwiftUI view. Let's call it app view. So app view, what we want in an app view is a boolean called is authenticated. So let's give it a state at state var is authenticated, and it's a type of bool, so we can pass false. So we are going to also need to import Supabase. All right, once that is done, we have to create a group that will group the home view or the login view. So if the user is authenticated, we want to show the home view. If the user is not authenticated, else we show the login view. And how do we know if the user is authenticated or not? We have to use the Supabase auth state changes that will listen to a change and route to the respective screens. Now we have finished grouping it. The next step is to create a task. We're going to create a task, and the task we are going to write a for await loop that will listen for authentication state changes. We're going to be checking for a signed in state, a signed out state, and also an initial session state. So we write the for await loop for await state in Supabase client.auth state changes, and we are going to check for the initial state first, initial session first, then we're going to check for the signed in session, the signed out session. It's going to be a dot signed out session, dot contains state.events. Okay, then now we are going to write is authenticated equals to state.session is not equal to nil. So what we're trying to check here is if the user, if a session exists, if a session is nil, then it means that we are not logged in yet. So that means we are going to be routed to the home view. But if a session is not nil, it means that we have a session already in the application, that's in our device. So we're going to route to the login view where we have a session. Before we build our application, let's go back to the login view. Call the sign in with Google action. So we're going to wrap it in a task and call await sign in with Google, and that is pretty much it. We are going to build our app now. So let me minimize this so you can be able to see my physical device. This is my physical device here, over here. So let me build the app now. So now our app has loaded. We are going to test it by signing in with Google first and click continue. Once it's we get a group of accounts, we choose the first account for my own case. Then I click on continue. Then you will see that we have successfully authenticated into the application, and it got my username, my user email, which is McMartin081. And once we click the sign out button, we will automatically sign out. To confirm that this app is like this user exists, let's jump into our Supabase dashboard to check that user was successfully logged in. So we have to go to authenticated here, then go to users here, then we are going to see the users. For now, let me just refresh this page. You will see that we have my name Obinagua and my email address was authenticated successfully. So thank you guys for watching this video. Look out more for on this channel for much more videos, and also suggest what you want to see more in the future in this channel. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video for more videos that will be coming your way.